What is up, guys? It is Coaster Watch here, and today I got my first ever coaster face-off. So basically what this is I'm going to be comparing two similar roller coasters, and I'm going to be telling you which one is better and why. So I'm not really going to do the whole Coaster Studios thing where I go through the categories and the points and all that. I'm just going based off of my preferences. And our first ever fight or battle or face-off, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to call it face-off because that sounds a little bit more unique, is between Thunderhead and White Lightning. Well, Thunderhead at Dollywood, White Lightning at Fun Spot America in Orlando. So both these are GCI wooden roller coasters. Both of them are very similar. One is a little bit larger in stats, but one of them is a little bit smoother and has a little bit more airtime. Which one do I like better? I'll get into that right now. So first off, let's start off with Thunderhead. Thunderhead was built in 2004, of course, by GCI. It stands at a height of 100.4 feet and reaches a top speed of... this is just off the top of my head. Maybe I'm going to say like 53, 55 miles per hour, somewhere in that ballpark. It features lots of bank turns and a lot of surprise ejector airtime moments. White Lightning, on the other hand, is a family coaster by Great Coasters International, GCI. It stands at a height of 69 feet and only goes 43 miles per hour, but I think this features some of the best airtime on any GCI out there. So, I'm going to go through the pros and cons to each, kind of like in a similar way that Coaster Fanatics does it, I guess. So, Thunderhead, the things that I like about it are the bank turns. Thunderhead has some awesome bank turns. If you lean with the turns, it won't be very jerky. I was told that before I went, so I kind of knew what to expect going into it. I knew that some people thought it was one of the roughest, and I knew that some people thought it was one of the smoothest GCIs. It's not rough, it's rattly. But the turns are very great. There's some pretty intense turns, actually. The next thing I like is some of the airtime. You get some really nice airtime. There's like a couple like surprise moments you wouldn't really expect. But then there's a few moments where you would expect some and you don't really get too much of it. Nothing that was really crazy about airtime on this coaster, but it had some nice air. Another thing that I liked was the pacing. This coaster kept a great pace throughout the entire ride, and it felt fairly long for being a GCI, in my opinion. And I love the station fly-through. That part is awesome. So that's what I like about Thunderhead. Now, the things that I am going to complain about is the length of each airtime moment. They didn't last for too long. That was my one thing about it. And the only other thing that I didn't like about Thunderhead was that it was pretty rough in the back row. I rode in the back row once, the second row once, and the front row twice or three times. And all three front row rides were amazing, but honestly, the second row I felt was just as bad as the back row, in my opinion, in terms of roughness. It was pretty rough that day, because both of the more back row rides, I rode it when it wasn't raining, but in the morning I rode it when it was raining, and it was awesome. So yeah, that's it with Thunderhead. But now the thing about White Lightning is it's a lot smaller and a lot shorter than Thunderhead. But I'm going to get into the pros first. The first pro about it is the airtime. This is some of the strongest airtime I've experienced. I think this airtime is stronger than Mako's airtime. And that's pretty good, I guess. Mako's just a hyper, though. I'm hyper, though. Features some great airtime. It's smooth. This is the smoothest wooden coaster I've been on. It's smoother than most steel coasters. That is pretty crazy. Considering this is a wooden coaster, and wooden coasters do tend to rattle you up a little bit more, this one was glossy smooth. That was really bizarre how smooth it was. The trains were comfortable, of course, for both. These are both Millennium Flyer trains. It features short trains, and I really, really like that. And another thing that I like about this ride is it is compact, out and back, and it has... And I like the layout of this. It's just a simple out and back, but it has more airtime opportunities this way. That's what I like about it. But another con to this ride is the bank turns. I do not like the bank turns as much on this ride. Another thing this ride lacks is intensity. Some of the airtime is pretty intense, but a lot of the bank turns and stuff are not very intense. It's just a fun ride. And the other thing that I'm not a huge fan of about this ride is the length. This coaster, from drop to brakes, is only about 30-40 seconds, while Thunderhead is maybe 40-50. It's not that big of a difference, but on the ride, it definitely feels that way. But I've only ridden White Lightning once. So maybe things will change. I did ride it at night in the back row though, so that's kind of one of the better circumstances to be in terms of riding this ride. But overall, both these rides are great. So which one do I like better? I prefer Thunderhead here, guys. It's a little bit taller and faster, but that's not the only reason why. If it's a little bit more on the intense side, and it's a little bit longer. White Lightning, like, hauls. That thing kicks butt. It has some of the best airtime I've experienced, and it is a fantastic ride, but it is just a little bit too short for me. And in reality, it is just a family coaster. So there you have it. That is my first ever coaster fight. I've ridden pretty much all the coasters in Florida, so leave a comment on what you guys want to see next. And I'm also visiting Six Flags Great Adventure, so be sure to stay tuned for Nitro versus Mako, Bizarro versus Kraken, Superman versus Manta, and all that good stuff. And as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.